Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
As we continue to circle the globe this season, we find ourselves in the very north of the world at a hidden gem of a racing circuit. Considered the premier venue in all of Norway, Rudskogen is a tight, twisting, and technical track that will punish mistakes and challenge every driver who dares to step foot upon it. Hello everyone and welcome to Season 10 of the iRacing Israel League, brought to you here live on iRacing on Apex Racing TV. My name is DJ Clark, joined here in the commentary booth by Sebastian Bosher-Williams with our director and producer Louis Araya behind the scenes. And Seb, this track is relatively new to the service, but it's already gained a relatively fearsome reputation, and I think it's going to be a real challenge here today for these drivers in the GT3 machinery.
Oh, it certainly is. Good evening, DJ. Good evening, everybody at home. You're certainly right. This track has garnered such a reputation, but in a good way. You know, sometimes tracks, when they're added to iRacing or even just in general, they can almost be sort of disproved by the sim racing community. But here, everybody seems to get along with the circuit really well. But that doesn't mean that it's an easy circuit, as you alluded to. We've seen drivers in practice really sort of struggle to get to grips with the circuit, especially as you see on your screen at the moment, that uphill rise towards turn one, and Galili basically describing what I was about to say. Really difficult to stay within the track limits, and if you go across and if you miss the apex of turn one, you're going to be faced with a slowdown fairly rapidly. So it's going to be a challenge for our drivers today, but I think everybody will be enjoying their time on the circuit here tonight.
Yes, I think they will as well. Let's actually jump on board here with Offer Mazeus as we bring these cars around down into turn 3 here at this point. A very tricky corner, potentially a passing opportunity for some of these drivers, but a late apex there into the corner to really carry some speed. And now you work your way up through the S's section of the circuit. Very, very difficult to get the timing right here. And then again through turn 8, and this is really a characteristic of this circuit. Very, very long corners here that you've got to have a lot of patience to be able to get on the throttle for and make sure you get right. Another potential opportunity here coming down into turn 10. And again, one of the things that makes this circuit so spectacular are the elevation changes that exist all over it. It really is just a roller coaster of a track.
It certainly is, and one thing that the drivers are going to have to be aware of is you have to be so patient around the circuit. You mentioned how long these corners are. Turns 14, the final corner, the corner that we are currently going through, is no exception. But GT3s tend to be some of the quickest cars that I think will tend to suit this circuit. And I think, especially when you're deep into the race, just having that patience, having that ability to just let the car almost do what it wants to, not overload at the front tires, not had a little bit of throttle because you're a little bit impatient, get those rears spinning. You've got to just take it easy, take it slow, and that will reward you. But I'll tell you what, as much as I'd love to be in the commentary booth with you, DJ, and I really want to be, part of me wants to be on the circuit because it looks so much fun out there at the moment.
Yeah, it certainly does. I've got to agree with you there on that one. This is just an absolute blast of a circuit to drive. But before we get into the actual racing, let's go ahead and take a look at the points championship here. You can see there John Chico up on the top of the charts, but only by 3 points over Nadav Yaron. Then Tal Stern and Rantasoni in a very, very close battle there behind, and Yossi Gabe holding on as well. So certainly a close running here for them, for all of these drivers, and we're going to have to hold on to that and see what is going to be able to play out for them. But John Chico clearly painting himself as the driver to beat here at this point, and we'll have to see if John continues on with that as this race here and these two races actually around Rudskogen go on today. We will have those two races again, and it will be a 20-minute race followed by another 20-minute race, and in that second race we will have an invert of the top 10, which always throws a little bit of a wrench into the works here for all the drivers. But qualifying is now concluded, so that means we are ready to go through the qualifying order here. To the surprise of no one, it is John Chico up in pole position, Avaram Papachado there in P2, then Rantasoni and Yossi Gabe behind them in row 2. Row 3 is Tal Stern and Ben Yosef. Then it's going to be Mark Zubarev and Tomer Ventura, Benny Sorek, and Amir Hesed to round out your top 10. Dror Last will line up in 11th, followed by Offer Mazus in 12th. Then Aviv Yamakarov will be in 13th, with Nadav Yaron in 14th. The last row then will be Arnon Levi and Bertie Galili to round out our 16-car grid. And Seb, I gotta say here, 16 cars seems like that's just about the perfect amount of cars here on this track. I've been in a race or two when you've got 20, 30 cars, and it gets very congested very quickly.
It certainly does. I'm completely with you. I think 16 is the magic number around Rudskogen in GT3 cars, and even then I think they're going to find that the track is going to be fairly congested. And you know, as if we do end up with almost two sort of fields, I think the top 3 or 4 have just got a little bit more pace over the rest of the grid, and if they start to encounter a little bit of traffic, they will really find that this track is not very pleasant for trying to lap or overtake. So yeah, it's going to be a really, really interesting race, and I think John Chico, DJ, wants to get this race underway, really hustling and hassling the pace car already. I think he's going to have a fairly long wait, I think, before we get underway here tonight.
Yeah, I certainly think he is as well. And also want to give credit here. One of the things that I always love to see when we talk about GT3 machinery is the disparity up amongst the top cars here. And look at this. We've got a Mercedes, Ferrari, Audi, and BMW. Exactly what you like to see there with all 3 of them. Although I have to say, I've got to imagine that the Mercedes and the BMW, traditionally known for a little bit more straight line speed, a little bit understeery as they come through the corner, really as a result of that front engine build. They're going to probably have a little bit of a tougher time here, specifically through this section of the track, up through turns 5, 6, and 7. But then again, the flip side of that being is that understeer means predictability. You're not going to have the car stepping out on you at random moments. You're going to know what it's going to do, and you'd maybe just got to trail brake a little bit more, put a little bit more steering input into the car, something like that. But again, very good to see the disparity here among all these different cars.
It's certainly so. It's my favourite series to commentate on iRacing GT3. Just look at that field, how diverse it is. As you rightly mentioned, I think the straight line speed advantage of the BMW and the Mercedes over the rest of the cars is going to prove really, really helpful. I think turn 1 is going to be the most likely place that we're going to see overtakes happen today. But watch as the stint develops, as the race goes on with these, these understeery tending cars. They might start to struggle with a little bit of front end bite, and that's maybe when the Ferraris and the Audis might just come into their own. This race is certainly going to go down to the wire today.
Yes, it certainly is, and it starts right about now as there goes the green, and we are racing here in Norway. John Chico with an absolutely stellar start, getting on that loud pedal about halfway through that final corner, and it's going to be Rantasoni in the BMW that immediately starts to challenge. Contact there between Papashato and Zubarev as they got into each other. I think, that was Papashato and Stern as they tried to make their way into that treacherous turn one, but it looks like the rest of the field able to get through it nice and cleanly, and Rantasoni not waiting around to catch up to John Chico, but the battle here with Papashato trying to move his way up on Tal Stern. Stern, one of the biggest movers here early on into the going. He is up 2 positions, so we've got a little bit of a fight here coming down into turns 3 and 4, but it looks like the rest of the field able to keep things together as Yarmakov having a problem spinning that number 71 BMW. He'll find himself at the back of the field.
Yeah, I think Yarmakov there just lost the rear end. Cold tyres, of course, and a little bit of dirty air from the car ahead. It's always really a recipe for disaster. Tell you what, John Chico nailed that start really, and caught Phil napping, I think you have to say. Already got an 8/10 advantage. Really, really good opening lap from your race leader. It's all going to be about what can Rantasoni do in that BMW, and it looks like, I think, John Chico might have picked up a slowdown because Tazzoni is all over the rear of our race leader.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. That was a very, very slow couple of corners for Chico. Couple of little wiggles there out of Chico and Tazzoni coming out of the final corner. But now it's going to be Rantasoni tucking behind in the draft. Probably still just a little bit too far behind to really make a move down into turn 1. And indeed, it does look like that is the case. But now as they work their way through that long turn 2, John Chico trying to stretch his advantage a little bit more. Look at him breaking down to the right-hand side of the track, trying to break that draft to Tazzoni. He is already thinking about trying to run a race to get away at the front of the field.
Yeah, surprised that he's... Oh, it's the McLaren go spinning in the background. I think that's Yurev that's made a little bit of a mistake. Contact as they head up through the S's. All going on at the moment. Very surprised though that John Chico feels the need to defend this early on. I think he's got the pace, and I think this might be a replay of what happened to the McLaren.
Yes, it is coming down into the corner, Mark Zubarev, and the flames spitting out the black at the back of the McLaren. That is the phrase that we always talk about when you drive that British-made machine, the off-throttle oversteer that does kick in and really coming back to bite there. But we check back in on live pictures right now as we check out Yossi Gabe in that Audi trying to make a little bit of a run here on Papashato. You saw Tal Stern and Papashato having a little bit of argy-bargy yet again. Those two still being very aggressive. Those were the two that made contact on the opening lap, and it looks like they're not done with getting their elbows out here. A little bit farther back down in the field, off from Azus and a train of BMWs trying to move his way forward right now in that 422.
It's all going to be about just biding your time. Audi off the circuit there on the exit of turn 2. Hasid, he's going to have a slowdown. Very, very lucky to get away without one. It doesn't seem to be slowing down, so he might have just managed to get away with that. But turn 1 is such an easy place to pick up a slowdown. Expect to see a little bit more of that as the race develops. Tazzoni, his pace is really quite good at the moment at DJ. He's really keeping John Chico honest. Looking like he could be in the battle for the race lead, but Stern and Papashato, well, they've had contact, as you mentioned. Have to think that Stern's got a little bit more pace over Papashato. Gabe now actually starting to hustle and hassle the back of that Ferrari. But overtaking is going to be so difficult here today. I think you've really got to set the driver up ahead of you, and maybe it might even take a lap or so to get prepared for an overtake. So I think this is going to be a race of tactics rather than all-out side-by-side action every single corner.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a race of tactics there, and it looks like Yossi Gabe may have lost a little bit of that tactic. He really tried to diamond off turn 14 there, and it looks like it didn't work out for the Audi driver. And in turn, Papashato going to be able to close up a little bit more on Tal Stern as they work their way through turns 1 and 2, trying to get the good launch off of the line. A little bit of a wiggle. I'm not sure if that was a snap of oversteer out of Tal Stern or maybe thinking about trying to go a little bit defensive on the run down into turn 3. But one way or the other, the Mercedes Jesus will stay ahead of the Ferrari for now. Tassoni and Chico starting to check out at the front of the field. John Chico checking out even more, 1.5 seconds up the road, make that 1.7 as they come through turn 8 right now. And it looks like Chico is just doing what he's done at many different times over the course of this season and just pulling away at the front of the field.
Yeah, well, I said about 2 minutes ago, it's completely gone out the window. John Chico really finding his groove. I wonder if Tazzoni had made a little bit of a mistake, or John Chico has finally found his rhythm. We know that he was a little bit slow coming out of turn 12 on the opening lap, maybe just taking him a few laps or so to find his rhythm. Papachado, though, also now trying that sort of wide, sort of mid-corner to cut back in on the exit of turn 14. Gabay looking a little bit closer to the back end of the Ferrari, though. I'm going to say it again, it's going to be a race about tactics, and really realistically I think we're looking at turn 1 being a good overtaking opportunity. Maybe if you can get a good run out of turn 2 like Papachado has done on Talstern, maybe you can make a move into turn 3, but apart from that, it's really going to be difficult to make an overtake here tonight.
Yeah, it certainly is. We're going to check out a replay here as we jump back through the field. This is Amir Hassad in the black Audi right now, the 959, as he comes down there out of the corner. Contact there with the McLaren, and that's going to be enough to be able to send that Audi spinning right around.
Yeah, it looks a little bit clumsy as they headed up the hill towards turn 7. Of course, it's so slow. It's the slowest point on the circuit. Everybody is really not focused on where the other cars are. They're just looking at the almost off-camber apex, and I think a little bit clumsy there by the McLaren. And unfortunately for Hassad, he is back into the pit, so I think the damage that he sustained by hitting the tyre barrier was too much to continue. So I think this might be his race done for, well, the first race of today. Of course, we've got another 20-minute race to go. What's happened to Papachado? He's fallen off the back of Gabay, so the Audi driver here managed to find his way past Papachado. And I wonder if the 60 Ferrari has made a little bit of a mistake. But anyway, he's down in 5th place. And got a lot to do if he wants to be refighting for the podium places.
Yeah, he's got to try to get his way back forward. He's also got to worry about Ben Yosef there behind Tomer Ventura in the Ferrari as well. Not too far out of the equation. Tomer certainly can be able to gain back in here as he brings the car down into turn 3 right now. That number 13 Ferrari diamonding off the corner, that being the expected line that we really anticipate a lot of drivers being able to take, as now he works his way through the S's here, trying to gain a little bit of time on Ben Yosef, but it looks like that Ferrari just seems a little bit sluggish coming through those corners. We give a little bit of love farther back down into the field to Nadav Yaron in the BMW as he tries to bring that number 22 around down through the flowing section of the track, running down the hill here into turn 10. Such a lovely corner, downhill braking zone. You've got to be careful, even with the ABS on these cars. You can lock up the fronts there with the gravity pulling you down into the track.
Yeah, drivers are going to have to be ultra aware, and even if you manage to get your braking right, you can so easily run a little bit wide and lose a whole chunk of lap time. It's a really, really challenging corner. In fact, the whole sort of middle section has almost every type of corner. You've got the high-speed corner of turns 3 and 4, the real slow speed of turns 7 and 8, and then turn 10. Downhill braking, you need such a good feel for the car to get a good lap time around here. Heading up towards turn 1, hits the grass, does over Jesus, gets away with it. You won't see too many of those instances. Normally, as soon as you hit the grass on the outside of turn 1, you are on a one-way ticket heading towards the barrier. So Jesus feeling very, very lucky, I imagine.
As it looks like here, we may have had a little bit of an incident for Yossi Gabay coming down into turn 3. Let's see what happened to the Audi driver. Oh, that rear end just wanting to step out on him. You could see it happening from about 30 yards away before he truly turned in a very, very close run. I believe that was Tomer Ventura that snuck on by him there in the Ferrari. And so now Gabay has it all to do to try to gain back up that again being one of the problems there with that mid-engine layout in the Audi is that you can get a little bit of the pendulum effect starting to happen. It likes to rotate around the corners, and if you carry in a little bit too much speed going into those corners, you get that over-rotation. But we jump back here at Ben Yosef, trying to see what he is able to do right now. Gaining on the back of Papasciotto up in front of him as the BMW tries to see what they are able to do and get a move on the Ferrari as we are ticking closer and closer to that halfway point here in this race. And still, it continues to be a race that is all about mitigating mistakes, not making those mistakes, and the driver who has not made really a single mistake, save for that one little slowdown that we saw him do earlier. John Chico just absolutely running away at the top of the field, 4 seconds nearly over the nearest competitor.
And that's such a nice buffer to have, especially in a track like this where mistakes are proving so costly. To have that barrier, you don't really have to push, you don't have to brake those extra couple of meters later, say into turn 10. You can just ease into the corners, really protect the front tires, protect the temperatures, and everything really just becomes a lot easier. Chico taken another sort of 4 or 5 tenths out of Tizzoni in the middle sector alone. Absolutely perfect from Chico so far. I'd say Papasciotto looking a little bit further down the order, starting to find a little bit of pace over Tal Cern, and well, finding a lot of pace at the moment. I think Tal Cern's made a little bit of a mistake because Papasciotto, right in this battle for third place once again, has got the Ferrari, has got a little bit more turning just due to the inherent differences of these GT3 cars. Papasciotto might have an opportunity maybe to reclaim his spot on the podium.
Yeah, very well might be able to do that. Going to get a nice heaping of the draft here on the way down into turn 3. Doubt we're going to see a move, and indeed he will stay in line. Very tricky to try to get any sort of overtaking done there down on that run, as you've really got to be braking late to be able to get anything to play. As now they work their way through the S's. This is the area of the track where the Ferrari, I would imagine, would be able to catch up. And indeed, look at that so much later on the binders coming up through turn 8. And he's going to get a little bit of a run, going to look to the inside. That will switch back to the outside here as they come down the hill through turn 9 and into turn 10. That's going to be Papasciotto trying to be later on the binders than the Mercedes in front of him. He's going to keep it around, keep it going. Now the track will favor back into his favor as they come up into turn 11 and 12. And there is the move done. Brilliant stuff from the Ferrari driver.
Absolutely superb. Had such a good feeling onto the brakes down into turn 10, knew that he just had to try and keep the minimum apex speed up, and Tal Cern really being caught by surprise there, and Papasciotto really using the advantages of the Ferrari to get the move done. It'd be interesting to see if Tal Cern can come back at Papasciotto down the straights where that Mercedes is a little bit stronger than the Ferrari, but Ben Yosef is just lurking in the background. Certainly wouldn't count him out to maybe have a little bit of a look at the 2 drivers ahead of him, especially if they continue to fight a little bit more. Vertically further down the order in P14, getting into a nice scrap between himself, Lars, and Zubarev. Battle starting to develop up and down the field, and as you draw closer to the end of race 1, I think drivers are going to be a little bit less hesitant and maybe just start to brake a little bit later and maybe try and make those moves on the cars ahead of them.
Well, speaking of those moves, Galili saw one, and he absolutely went for it there on Drawer Last. I'm not sure if that was maybe a little bit of a slowdown from Drawer Last or just didn't get the run off the corner, but one way or another, Birdie Galili in the number 420 going to move his way up into P13, and now he's going to have Mark Zubarev in that McLaren up ahead of him to try to close down on as they work their way through the S's right now. Zubarev having to manage that car a little bit. Again, the off-throttle oversteer on the McLaren, always something that you have to keep an eye on, as it looks like a pretty good line there for Zubarev coming out of turn 8, now on the binders into turn 10 as they bring their way through the corners, trying to build their way back up the hill, build some speed here at this point. Looks like that flame-spitting McLaren going to be able to hold off here. 14 minutes down in this race, about 6 minutes to go. And there comes a little bit of a peek from Birdie Galili. He does not want to wait around at all. Zubarev does a good job to close the door, but I'm not sure how much longer he can keep that BMW behind him.
No, Zubarev looks a little bit all over the road at the moment. We saw that spin from him earlier on the rear tyres must be feeling a little bit of the heat from that incident. Zubrev just really, as you rightly pointed out, having to manage that off-throttle oversteer. Good run out for Bertie Glili. Should be a fairly easy move in. Zubrev is not going to have the ability to really hold on to this if it does go side by side because of that off-throttle oversteer. Manages to make the defense work. I think Glili just backed off, but I think, as you said, DJ, I think it's a matter of when, not if, Glili will get past Zubrev. Zubrev just looks really like he's really struggling, I should say, at the moment.
Yeah, you definitely see those brake markers kind of popping in there. Nice little defense from Zubrev as they came down through turn 8, shutting the door on the exit of the corner. We've seen that you've been able to get a run there coming down into turn 10. We now jump on board with Bertie Glili in that BMW. You see how he's really able to open up the exit of the corner a lot more and build as much speed as possible. Now swinging the car wide, a little bit of a defensive line there from Zubrev. Is that going to open the door? Big twitch on throttle there, and coming down into the corner as there goes Glili spinning around. He just got it wrong, Seb.
Yeah, just too much speed, too tight of an angle, and it all comes undone for Bertie Glili. I think he might have slightly made contact with Zubrev as well, for good measure. We have a look at the replay. Superb move by Glili there, just to capitalize on the mistake of Zubrev. Going to make it down. Locks the rears, I think, a little bit as well. Contact was made between the two drivers, but Glili, he had to try it. I think it's just a shame that he just took a little bit too much speed into the apex, didn't he?
Yeah, a little bit too much speed, maybe a little bit of too much curb as well, that threw him off. But John Chico pays no mind to that whatsoever as he is up at the front of the field by a whopping 4 seconds here at this point, and he looks to be in position to take yet another victory on the season as he crosses over the line with about 4 minutes and 20 seconds left to go. Should be just a handful of laps here for the number 04. This has looked, really with the exception of that slowdown penalty, Seb, just like a walk in the park here for John Chico.
Yeah, it really has. And you always got the sense at the start, after that slowdown, he was almost sort of playing with Tizzoni just a little bit, just keeping him just outside that 1 second margin. And then Chico, it's a little bit wide heading in to turn 4, has a little bit of a correction to make. We'll get away with that without too much hassle. But yeah, really outstanding race from Chico so far. But of course, race 2, we've got the reverse grid, and while it's easy to lead a race, especially around Rudskogen, I think he's going to find that it's going to be a lot harder to make the overtakes. We have seen it's possible in race 1, but if he wants to maybe even possibly get a double race victory here tonight, he's going to have to work for it in race 2. Papa Shado as well, really gapping Tal Stern. Another great drive. Actually, it's been great drives up and down the field. I think the reverse grid is going to provide that extra little bit of excitement.
Yeah, I agree with you there on that. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how these drivers are able to cope. And it's not like some of the previous races that we've been to where there are clear overtaking opportunities. I think for a lot of these drivers who have to work their way forward, this is going to be a matter of just trying to apply pressure and maybe hope for a mistake in front of you, as I really don't think you're going to see a lot of big movement via passing. But we follow right now Yuta Ben Yosef trying to work his way on Tal Stern. This is your closest battle on track. This is for 4th place position. Mercedes versus BMW. Again, very similar characteristics between these two cars, both having those engines firmly planted over that front axle, as now they work their way down into turns 3 and 4, and the gap starts to grow a little bit. Tal Stern able to get just a little bit of an advantage in that Mercedes, but Ben Yosef able to gain some speed off of the corner and close it back down again. Ooh, that was a wide run there for Ben Yosef, and I think that may have cost him a chance at 4th.
It certainly looks like it has. Yosef, I think, was a little bit ambitious, tried to brake a little bit later. I think got caught out. I think Tal Stern might have been slightly early on to the brakes, had a little bit of dirty air into the mix as well. And you see Yosef now just starting to apply the throttle a little bit too hard. He wants to try and make up that time, but all that serves to do is you just end up losing more time. And Yosef now outside of that 1 second margin, won't really be benefiting too much of any slipstream heading up towards turn 1 and down towards turn 3. So unless Ben Yosef can pull out something fairly extraordinary, I think his chances of a P4 finish, I think, have just slipped away.
Yeah, I think they have as well. We've got another good battle here going on farther down in the field. Dror last and Birdie Galili. Remember, we followed Galili after he made that little bit of a mistake. He now tries to get a little bit of a move. That was so close down into turn 10. I'm not sure if there was contact or not, but either way, that is a little bit too close for comfort.
Too close, certainly. I think there was the tiniest bit of contact. Galili there, I think just a little bit unsighted, broke a little bit too late, and I have to say, Last did such a superb job, but Last goes wide on the exit of turn 14. Galili seizes the opportunity fairly spectacularly, if I do say, gets the move done up into 13th. So, well, that mistake for Galili didn't really cost him too much in the end, and up to 13th place. I tell you what, John Chico, we were just mentioning, DJ, how well he'd been doing in his lap times. Started to fall off a little bit. Gap is now down to 2 seconds or so. Chico struggling just a tad in the final few laps.
Well, in the final lap, as I believe the checkered flag has flown here for John Chico, it looks like he will cross over the line. Only about a second of an advantage there for Chico. Not entirely sure what happened. That may have just been the driver of the 04 backing it off a little bit. Papachado, Stern, Ben Yosef, and Yaron will cross over in 4th, 5th, and 6th, respectively. A little bit of a battle here between Tomer Ventura and Yossi Gabay that's going to come to naught as now Sorek and Mazuz come out of the final corner. Big wiggle there for Mazuz as he came out of that final line. He will be able to come across the line, though, to maintain a top 10, as here comes Arnon Levi as he will cross over the line as well. Mark Zubarev, the next driver that we wait on.
I wonder if John Chico started to run out of fuel. His last 2 laps were somewhat off the pace that he managed. It looked like he was going fairly slowly as he crossed the finish line, so maybe Chico under fueling just a tad. Zubrev will come across the line to finish in 12th place, and we wait for Dual Last, the final driver, across the finish line. That was a thoroughly enjoyable race one, though DJ cannot wait for race 2 to get underway, because we know that it's possible to overtake. We just know it isn't easy.
Exactly, and here we have the grid for race 2. Again, this is an invert of the top 10, so that means Ofer Mazuz will be lining up in pole position with the 73 of Benny Sorek in P2. Yossi Gabay and Tomer Ventura will be in row number 2 with Nadav Yaron and Yuda Ben Yosef in P6. Tal Stern will line up P7th, followed by Avarim Papachado. Then it's Ransoni and John Chico, your winner from race 1, starting off in P10. Arnon Levi will be the first driver not to have the invert in 11th, followed by Mark Zubarev in 12th place. Birdie Galili lines up 13th, followed by Dror Last with Yarmakov and Hased rounding out your 16-car grid. And yeah, the impetus here, Seb, going to all be on John Chico to see if he is able to move his way back through the field. We haven't really seen as many times as I would have thought a dual winner in the race. We've seen him be able to come back and claim podiums in this second race, but we haven't seen Chico really be able to just fly his way up through the field and dominate both races. And I think today, probably much of the same, as we've talked about overtaking so difficult here.
I think that's a fairly good option to bet on. I think he'll be aiming for a podium. I think he'll need a little bit of an instant up ahead, although it's not unheard of. We saw a little bit of door banging going into turn 1 on the opening lap of the previous race. So, you know, anything can happen. He needs a good start. He also needs to keep it clean over the first few laps or so. I think he did run out of fuel on that first race, so I hope he's managed to add a little bit more fuel to the setup, or maybe he's just going to try and do a little bit more fuel saving over the course of race number 2. Also, another driver to keep our eye on is going to be Yossi Gabay, the driver that made a mistake in race 1, heading down towards turn 3. He starts in 3rd because of the reverse grid race. He's got some good pace under the bonnet of that Audi. I think he's in with a good shout of the race win, as long as he can tame that Audi, which looks like it's harder said than done.
Yeah, most certainly, and that Audi, especially coming over the curbs, tends to be a little bit unstable, so he's going to have to be careful about that. We haven't really seen an Audi get into massive trouble here today like we saw the McLaren have necessarily, but we will have to see how everything shakes itself out. Again, a great diversity among drivers and cars here to be able to bring their way up through the field as they now work their way up the hill, coming into the final couple of corners here, down through turn 12 into turn 13. Big question for me is Ofra Mazouz starting off in that pole position. Is he going to be able to get as good of a jump as we saw? Right on board with the Audi driver of Yossi Gabe as we wait for the green flag to fly. We wait for Mazouz to get on the loud pedal, and there he goes. We are racing once again here in Norway. A good getaway from Mazouz. He's going to get on it right from the get-go. Yossi Gabe looking to challenge there on Benny Sorak. I think he's going to be able to get that move done into turn 1. Yes, he is, and that looks to be Tomer Ventura and the Ferrari attempting to get a move done there around the outside. It's Ferrari versus Ferrari for the final podium position. Sorak going to be able to hold that off, and now Nadav Yaron going to be thinking about a little bit of a move there in the BMW. Is he going to go for it down into turn 3? It looks like he's got to back off just a little bit. Some more side-by-side farther back in the field. Interestingly, John Chico hasn't moved forward, as that was, I believe, Mazouz, that was Yossi Gabe getting things a little bit wrong, and Mazouz getting things wrong. Yossi Gabe able to capitalize. We've got a car off farther back down in the screen. I believe that's Bertie Galili that's had a problem.
Yeah, Bertie Galili going for a little spin on the exit of turn 3, but Gabe, absolutely rocket ship start, leads by 1.5 seconds after starting third. I think Mazouz maybe made a little bit of a mistake, a little bit of an error coming out of turn 4, and that's cost him dearly. Gabe is just absolutely flying at the moment. 1.7 seconds gap now between himself and second place. Chico and Tizzoni having a scrap further down the field as well. I think that race 1 we had a fairly adventurous start, but race 2 has turned it up to 11. Superb opening lap here at Rudskogen. Gabe leads Mazouz, leads Ventura, and I don't think this race is going to, I think this race is going to be one to keep your eye on for the entirety of the 20 minutes.
Yeah, I fully agree with you there on that as we watch exactly what happens to Yossi Gabe here. Now, this is coming down into turn 3. Let's wait and see to find out what went wrong. It just looks like he Mazouz caught things a little bit wrong, outbraked himself coming down into that corner, and that's what allowed for Gabe to be able to take over the lead. Credit where credit's due, though, for Ofra Mazouz. It didn't look like he lost all that much time. He's still within relative striking distance of Gabe and was able to keep Tomer Ventura behind him. But Ventura looking very hungry here as they come down into turn 12, trying to be able to get a move on that BMW. Big turnaround there. It looks like Ben Yosef and Sorak having a problem. They're going to be off track, and that's going to be 2 positions given over to John Chico.
Yeah, that's exactly what Chico needed in his pursuit of at least a double podium here today. I wonder if that's going to be a little bit of contact between the 2 drivers. Yosef heads up towards turns 6 into turn 7. He's going to lose it all by himself, and the 73 there. Ben Sorak just arrives on the scene at the wrong time in the wrong place. Heartbreak for Sorak, and so too for Ben Yosef. So easily done, especially in that BMW. All the weights over the front end of the car, and the rears. So easy to lose it, especially at that low speed.
Yeah, very much so. Is Arnon Levi here that we watch on your screen trying to maybe make a little bit of a move on Mark Zubarev. Zubarev, your biggest mover of the race, tied for your biggest mover of the race, up 4 positions here at this point. Amir has said also up 4. Zubarev doing a good job to keep everything under control, as there you can see Nadav Yaron actually setting the fastest lap of the race last time out from P13. Looks like P8 and P9 going to stay in relative single file order here as they come down into turn 3. No real changes in position as now they work their way up the hill into the S's. We've had another car around at the back. I believe that's Amir Hassed, who has falling victim there to going around turns 3 and 4. That really looks to be the danger zone here in this race. As we take a look back at the replay, and I think this may be another situation, maybe just a little bit too much speed into the corner as the car starts to break away. That's a bit of a strange one there.
Yeah, it just seemed that he just took a little bit too much speed in, but I'm surprised that he couldn't sort of collect that oversteer up onto the exit. I wonder, maybe just the rear tyre simply gave up, maybe a little bit too hot, I wonder, but it's interesting that we're only really seeing the mid-engine cars struggle with turn 3, the Audis and the McLarens, although actually the Ferraris have managed to escape relatively scot-free so far. That's going to be something I think everybody is going to keep their eye on, especially if you are driving these mid-engine cars. It's going to be just brake a little bit earlier for turn 3, allow the car to grip up on its own terms. I think if you start to push, you will find that the car doesn't necessarily agree with that trajectory, shall I say.
Yeah, and that's certainly something that's we will continue to watch and keep our eye on here at 5 minutes down in the race. We talk about two of those Ferraris, Papasciotto and Ventura, holding on to 5th and 3rd respectively. The meat in the Ferrari sandwich, though, is Tal Stern in his Mercedes as he comes down into turn 10 right now, trying to bring off of the corner. This turning into a pretty good scrap as, up ahead of him there. That looked to be Ventura trying to send a little bit of a move on off of Mazouz. Remember, Mazouz had that error earlier on in the race, but the BMW driver able to hold things together, hold on to P2, but it looks like he's starting to form a little bit of a train here at this point. As you can see there, Ventura, Stern, Papasciotto, Tassoni, and Chico all starting to line up behind that BMW, snaking their way down the front straightaway as everyone tries to find a little bit of that draft. Oh, as we've got a big off there, that is Tomer Ventura, and lucky day, nobody else involved in that.
How did nobody else be involved in that incident? Oh, more incidents on the exit of turn 3. Chico there just avoiding Stern. Zubrev making his way past the stricken Mercedes. And what went on through turns 1 and 2? I think another car spinning. It's Mazouz. So everybody struggling out there on the circuit at the moment. Papasciotto somehow managed to find himself in 2nd place after, well, a crazy 3 corners or so.
Absolutely bananas 3 corners there as Papasciotto now takes a little bit of a wide line coming through turn 12. I thought that may have opened up the door ever so slightly for Ransoni, but it didn't quite look like that. As now we take a look here as they work their way down into turn 3, trying to see what everyone's going to be able to do. Excuse me, that's turn 10 there as they come up the hill right now into turn 12. Papasciotto holding off relatively well. I'm frankly surprised that we're not seeing a bigger gap between Ransoni and Offer Mazouz. It's only about 2.3 seconds, so Papasciotto and Sony here have to be a little bit careful. They don't want to be scrapping too much, as now make that 2.5 seconds as John Chico able to send a late move on Offer Mazouz. Chico now starting to threaten. Maybe he could be in for a double podium day.
13 minutes left to go in this race. He's got a good opportunity, as you say, to get the double podium at least, although he needs to avoid the carnage of what we saw 1 lap ago. And I think here is the replay. So it's Ventura going to exit turn 14, head down towards turn 1. I wonder, DJ, was there contact between himself and Tal Stern?
There may have been. Stern looking down to the inside there. Yep, you called it, Seb. Contact there, sliding across the track. And again, the luckiest of days for all of those drivers. Now we take a look a little farther up in the field. This is Chico, and there again, Stern just came across his nose as if he didn't even recognize that he was there.
Yeah, I think Tal Stern was a little bit sort of distracted by that first incident heading into turn 1. Wasn't necessarily thinking really about the situation that he found himself in on the exit of turn 2. And yeah, John Chico, the innocent bystander, I think, in that second incident. And Chico miraculously manages to escape without any damage to the front end of his car. It would have been so easy for him to even tear a wheel off if you are particularly unlucky. And Chico, on this lap alone, has taken over a second on Tazzoni. Chico wants this double podium, and with the pace he's got at the moment, it's looking like he can get it fairly easily. Papasciotto as well sets the new fastest lap of the race, starts to gain on Yossi Gabay. This race for certainly the podium is not over, even for the race win.
No, it's not. And another race that continues to be very, very close right now is Dror Last and Amir Hased. This the battle for P12 right now. As soon as I say that, commentator's curse strikes, and Hased gets it wrong coming through turn 1. And that is that mid-engine Audi with the curbs. We've mentioned that the Audi's not the biggest fan of the curbs, and I think that's exactly what came back to bite the 959.
Exactly. You know, we were saying earlier how difficult these mid-engine cars can be to drive at some times, especially the Audi, especially over the curves, and that is a prime example of what can happen. You have to feel so badly for Hesed. He was having a fairly decent race too. Just got to hope, or Gabay's got to hope that he doesn't fall into the same traps that we've seen other Audis fall into today. That gap is starting to reduce over Papachado in second place, and that tends to play on your mind as a driver. You'll be looking at the relative, you'll see that gap start to come down, and you start to overthink it, or I should say you can start to overthink it, and then you tend to lose a little bit more time, and it's this vicious cycle. So Gabay, he's got a 5.5 second gap, but it's not going to be easy in the cockpit of that Audi, and it's going to be a very, very long 10 minutes. It actually looks like up ahead, it's a few corners away, but a little bit of lap traffic that Gabay might have to encounter as we get closer to the end of this race. Yeah, I don't think I'd really like to be in Gabay's shoes at the moment with 10 minutes to go.
No, I wouldn't either. I'd like to have a little bit more breathing room there to be able to have another driver who needs some breathing room here at this point. Our known Levi with Nadav Yaron in the number 22 BMW starting to close in on him. And this is turning into a three-way battle with Ventura up ahead in the Ferrari. Ventura looked a little bit slow there coming through those last couple of corners as they now flick their way through turn 8 right now, trying to see what they are able to get. Weird lines there, it has to be said, coming through 8 and 9, but now they flying their way down the little hill here into the right-hander that is turn 10 as they now get onto the loud pedal. These three kind of blending back and forth on time. It was Levi that looked like he was going to be threatening on Yaron. Now it's Yaron starting to threaten on Ventura. It's all sort of slotting back and forth. We've got another good battle farther back in the field here, though, as Benny Sorek trying to hold off Yehuda Ben Yosef right now as they work their way through the final corner.
Yeah, and that Ferrari from Sorek is a very, very sorry sight, of course, involved in that incident earlier on at the top of the hill. It's going to make that car even a little bit slower in a straight line. Yosef has a fairly good opportunity to make his way up into the top 10. He's got 9 minutes to do it. If he can actually dispatch Sorek fairly quickly, he might be able to join that Ventura-Yaron-Levi battle if they continue to be so close and to be involved in this ferocious scrap that they are currently involved in. So Yosef really has two sort of schools of thought at the moment. He can either wait for Sorek to make a mistake, apply a lot of pressure, or just try and get past him, and well, I think we're going to see what's going to happen. Sorek goes a little bit wide, Yosef onto the outside. That's going to become the inside line for the next corner, and Ben Yosef, number 10 car, heads up into 10th place. And I tell you what, if you are Ventura, Yaron, or Levi, knowing that Yosef has gotten past Sorek, that's going to be a little bit of a thorn in your side. They're going to be aware, and they're going to have to sort of start to be aware that they've got to start really sorting themselves out, because it could be a threat to their little battle at the moment.
Yeah, it very well could. A little bit of a blink there. Internet connection issues for your leader, Yossi Gabay. That was a little bit strange. Not sure what happened to him there, but he's going to be able to hold things together for now. He's got to be careful about that. You never want to have those blinking issues come back to bite you. Papachado behind him about 6 seconds back, so that gap has been able to grow out a little bit. Is there another big blink for your leader in the number 17 machine? And those are always a little bit of hair-raising moments. Thankfully, he doesn't have a lot of drivers around him to come in against and to have to be worrying about battling side by side, as those are always the parts of the race that you do not want to have that happen. But we flick back here to the battle for 7th place right now. Tomer Ventura in the Ferrari, leading Nadav Yaron in the BMW. Arnon Levi lurking in the background. Ben Yosef about 6 seconds behind right now. Looks like there Yaron trying to take a later apex down in through turn 8, trying to maximize speed as much as possible, and that's going to work out well for the BMW. He's got the gap under 0.4 of a second here as they dive down the hill into turn 10, trying to see if he can get a little bit earlier onto the throttle, maybe a little bit of a wiggle out of the BMW, but holds it together well. They now come down into turn 12, and another big wiggle there for the BMW, and now who was the attacker is now the attacked here, as Levi's going to be the one looking to try to make a move.
Yeah, Yaron had so much pace through the middle sector, but lost it all heading in to turn 12. Such a tricky corner off camber, late braking, really have to throw the car in. The front end simply did not agree with the amount of grip that he was demanding from the front tyres. Levi really needs to find a way past your own as quickly as possible. They all are so matched on pace, and as soon as your own really gets into that slipstream of Ventura, Levi has a very, very low chance, or at least it looks like it at the moment, being able to get past him. Chico is starting to gain on Tizzoni, but the rate that he was has sort of fallen by the wayside in the last few laps or so. So John Chico could get a double podium, but as the laps sort of start to tick away, that becomes less and less likely. In fact, Tizzoni on that last lap just improved or just gained a couple of tenths or so, now outside of the 2-second barrier. And Gabay, just to very quickly, DJ, go back to that blinking issue. That's just another thing to add that he's got to contend with. You know, in the cockpit, he'll be aware that he's blinking. The relative will go blank. You'll have a warning in the top of your screen. You'll be aware, and it just adds that extra little bit of pressure that just makes those mistakes a little bit easier to happen. I'll say it again. Would not like to be in the cockpit of that 17 car at the moment.
No, it's always one of the worst things in the world when you have a substantial lead and you've just got something that is going to break your frustration a little bit and break your concentration. As Gabay trying to pull away here still. I want to give him credit. He's been able to maintain about that 5-second lead here at this point. But yeah, those internet issues going to be something else that he doesn't want to have to worry about. He doesn't want to have to think about it. He just wants to focus on racing and not anything else around him. But as he brings the car down through the hairpin right now, it looks like his internet issues have resolved themselves for the moment down through turn 12. Not seeing any blinking out of the number 17. Let's go ahead and check back in on that battle for P7 though right now. Tomer Ventura is looking like he's losing a little bit of time here to Nadav Yaron. Yaron's starting to put some pressure. He's going to take a look down to the inside there of turn 10. That's going to be a little bit of contact, and both cars sent spinning.
Yeah, as soon as you have any sort of contact on the front end of these BMWs, they tend to lose traction really, really easily. Miraculously, Ventura manages to escape in the same position that he entered the scuffle in P7. Levi gets past Yaron, and yeah, that was a little bit too late in the day to make the move. A little bit of frustration there, I think, coming from the BMW driver. DJ, I'll have another look at the replay.
Yeah, we take a look at this, and I've got to say there, that was a little bit of an over-eager move from Nadav Yaron. I think that door was always going to close there, and that was a late braking maneuver for him to try to be able to throw that in there. Our own Levi, now the one that's sitting in a little bit of the catbird seat, trying to work his way forward. Here is Mark Zubarev again in that McLaren. Got to say, I love that livery there on the 030. Very, very pretty as we continue to sort of flick our way through the field here. This is the 422 running in 5th place, and well, he's got a pretty big gap up in front of him to John Chico to the tune of about 14 seconds here at this point, and with only about 2.5 minutes left to go, it does look like John Chico, who we talked about maybe being able to get that double podium, he is going to need to find some very, very good speed, and he's going to need to find it fast, because Randazoni doesn't look like he is going to be caught here in this final minute or so.
No, slowly extending that gap. This is only over Chico. Papachedo starting to make a little bit more of an inroad on Gabay. That gap down into the 4-second window. Back on that last lap, almost a second quicker. Papachedo was over Gabay. 2 minutes left to go in this race. I think, you know, Papachedo is relying on a mistake from our race leader, but as we've mentioned, all of that pressure building up in the cockpit of the 17 car isn't out of the question. Yaron, Ben Yosef as well, they're all close to the back of Ventura, so battles up and down the field. You know, just by looking at the intervals, it doesn't give you a sense of how many battles there are up and down the field. This is a race about strategy, and I can assure you that this race will go down to the wire. Certainly if you are Yossi Gabay trying to get a race win here at Rudskogen.
Yeah, he's certainly going to want to do that, and rest assured that for Yossi, he is still feeling the pressure here at this point. He should be coming to the white flag this time around as he now flicks the car through the relatively flat out turn 13 and now down through turn 14. Should be coming to the white flag here as the clock ticks closer and closer to 1 minute left to go, and there you can see off the corner of your screen Barney the flagman waving that white flag. Gabe here with a gap of about 4.2 seconds, certainly looking in good position here, but he's got to navigate one more time around, and that is no easy feat. We check back here. Ben Yosef looks like he is trying to close in on the back of Ventura and Yaron as that battle continues to keep going on even after the contact that we saw a little bit earlier.
Yeah, certainly. So it's going to be a real sort of case of just trying to make the move as cleanly as possible. Yaron, we've seen how easy it is to lose the rear end, even with the smallest bit of contact. The white flag flies then, 1 lap to go. I think Yaron's best opportunity is through that middle sector. He's managed to make his way past Levi earlier on in this race just by driving slightly better lines, using a little bit more apex speed. I think that's where his best opportunity is going to come if he wants to get this eighth position.
Yeah, I think it is as well, but time running out here for Yaron as they work their way now through 3 and 4. He doesn't look like he's quite close enough to be able to send a move coming up the hill, but we've got to focus in on your leader, the number 17, Yossi Gabai, up 2 positions since the drop of the green flag. He qualified in 3rd courtesy of that invert, and now he will find himself coming to the checkered flag, the number 17 taking victory here at Rudskogen. It will be Avarin Papasciotto able to hold on to P2 in that number 60 Ferrari, and then Rantosoni in P3. John Chico just off the mark there to be able to deliver a double podium on the day.
Yeah, he'll be a little bit heartbroken, will be John Chico, but Yossi Gabe, he won that race by his fantastic rocket ship start that he had leading after the end of lap 1. Zubrev just about going to hold on to that 6th spot. Levi less than 0.3 of a second behind him. Yaron in 8th place ahead of Ben Yosef in 9th, with Ventura rounding out your top 10. But yeah, Gabe, what a start. It really goes to show that, you know, they say that you can't win the race on the first corner. You hear that all the time in racing, but you can win the race on the first lap, and that's exactly what Gabe did today.
Yes, it was, as we watch Benny Sorek here bring that number 73 across the line. Credit there to Benny to certainly be able to hold on to that car. It was a little bit damaged. You can see the damage there on the right-hand side of that Ferrari. As we're going to go back and take a look at the replay here, we had a little bit of a coming together with Tomer Ventura, it looks like. Now this is coming down the hill into turn 10, and again, Ventura getting it wrong. Hefty damage there to the front end of that Ferrari. And there you can see iRacing's new damage model coming into play. Again, just a bad run, and that's 2 points in 2 corners there for Nadav Yaron, where he has gotten into contact there coming down into the hairpin.
Yeah, I have to say that I've put a little bit more of the blame on Ventura there. Just didn't seem like he gave enough room to Yaron on the outside of turn 10. But anyway, Ventura losing 2 places, ending up in 10th. But here are your race results, CJ.
Here are your race results. As you see there, Gabe, Papasciotto, and Tassoni rounding out your podium. Chico and Mazouz in the top 5. Then it's Zubarev, Levi, Yaron, Ben Yosef, Ventura, Galili, Last, Sorek, and Yarmakov, Hased, and Talstern. Non-finishers here today. And that's going to go ahead and lead us right into our podium interviews here. First up, we have your race to victor, Yossi Gabe in the Audi. Yossi, a great run there out for you. I want to start, though, at a little bit of what had to have been a scary moment there for you. We saw some blinking there from you with about 5 laps to go. Did that scare you a little bit at all?
No, I didn't notice it actually, no. But the grass took me hard on the first race.
Yeah, it certainly did. We did see that. And, I mean, to talk to me about, though, in the second race, your start, you just looked like you were able to laser focus on that, really jumping up through the positions. What was it like behind the wheel?
Yeah, you know, the reverse grid is always surprising. and I knew who was around me, so I just took the first chance I could see because I knew that those group probably will hold the fast drivers, and it go on my side this time.
Well, you made it play out, and I want to ask you, looking ahead in 2 weeks' time, we head to Interlagos, a little bit more of a, I would say, traditional circuit for these GT3s. Do you think you can carry on some podium success there?
I don't know because actually I like this track very much, but I'm not very good about it, driving it. So I like it, but I'm not good. So I hope I will be better this time.
Well, we wish you all the luck in the world, my friend. But as for today, a victory in race number 2, who'd you like to thank? Who makes this possible?
Um, who makes this possible? Actually, this time is myself. I practiced a lot.
Well, I love to hear it. You got to get that practice in. Yossi, thank you
Yeah,
again, and congratulations.
thank you, thank you.
All right, that was Yossi Gabe, your winner here in the second race. And Seb, it looks like we have race number 1 winner, John Chico, ready to stand by with you.
Good evening, John. Welcome to the commentary booth. Let's start off with your race win in round 1. It was a fairly dominating race win, if I do say so. What happened though at the end? Did you run out of fuel just as you crossed the line?
First of all, good evening, or wherever you are, whatever time zone you're in. Thanks for broadcasting this. No, I didn't run out of fuel. It was just listen. This track with the Mercedes is hell. You gotta be so light on the loud pedal. It's crazy. And I think the last 2 laps I just ran out of tires, so I just took it easy. And that's it. Nothing more to it. Just no more tires. They were done.
Fair enough. And then race 2, you had a really good start. A little bit of carnage up ahead of you, I think, heading into turn 1. Did you sort of were you sort of expecting getting a podium, or are you really happy with your 4th place? I mean, you are still leading the championship. It's another really good haul of points for you.
I always want the podium, no matter what. I just think that second race to actually get to 4th place or to a podium, you got to be first of all very lucky and very cautious. It's just like the first race when when you're leading and there's nobody next to you or right behind you, you can really take your lines and everything flows. But when you're in the midst of that traffic with everything going on, your tires suffer. So I think by the 6th lap, I was so cautious on the loud pedal. It was crazy, and you could actually see it from my times. I wasn't even clearing 121. So yeah, but I'm happy with the result. I knew I probably couldn't get to Yossi or second place. I think it was Aviram. Just on sheer speed. But I tried my best to stay on track, and I was kind of surprised when Tal, one of the guys with the Mercedes, I don't know, I think he didn't realize that there was another car to his left. So that basically killed my chances of passing Ron and Aviram, and so that's it. So then I just focused on just finishing the race and getting the points.
Well, you certainly had a good points haul here today. Before we let you go, John, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to at all on the broadcast?
Everybody in the league, everybody that's organizing it, Tal and everything, and to a guy for Sim Race, my buddy who takes care of me with all my rig and all my gear, and thanks to you guys for taking the time and broadcasting. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, John. Once again, congratulations on your race win in the first race today. And I hope you have a great week. DJ, I think we have time for one more interview.
Yes, indeed, we do, with the 3rd place driver. A double podium on the day for Ran Sony. Ran, seems like you suit this Rudskogen circuit pretty well.
Yeah, I'm surprised too. It was very hard for me to learn this track. But once I got the hang of it, I really enjoyed it.
Well, talk to me a little bit in that second race. I mean, you were obviously up 6 positions since the drop of the green flag, really having to move and shuffle your way forward. How aggressive on the attack were you in those opening stages?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of that's how it goes in reverse grid, and you just have to be cautious. And a lot of drivers just spun or flew off the track. And at that point, I had a clear track to Aviram, and I think a couple of times I really tried to be aggressive and try to attack him and try to sleep on the inside. But it was really hard for me to keep the focus and tire management. The tires were really overheating, so yeah, that was tough. And then I started to fall back, and I decided to just keep it on the black stuff and finish the race.
Well, you certainly were able to do that and make it work. We head to Interlagos next time out. How do you think things will fare there for you?
Yeah, I think it's a much more suitable track. I mean, even though I really enjoyed this track, it's really hard to pass here. And in Interlagos, there's a lot of passing opportunities. So, and I'm really familiar with the track, so I'm really looking forward. So, yeah.
Well, we're looking forward to it as well. But as for today, who makes this possible? Who'd you like to thank?
Yeah, Tal for organizing all this league, for everybody that's taking part in it, and for you guys for broadcasting, of course.
Well, we are more than happy to. Thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations once again on a double podium.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that was Ransoni, your third place finisher there in race number 2. And folks, that's unfortunately about going to wrap things up for us here at Apex Racing TV. But join us in 2 weeks' time, as you heard me mention, where the iRacing Israel League will head out to Interlagos and set these GT3s loose on that famous Brazilian circuit. But as of today, on behalf of myself, DJ Clark, Sebastian Busher-Williams, and Luis Araya, it has been an absolute pleasure to bring you the racing action. And until we see you on the track, thanks for watching.